Our guest on Thrive Spice today is Lyn Liao Butler, published author of her debut novel, The Tiger Mom's Tale, which was named one of the summer's best reads by Parade and Pop Sugar. In The Tiger Mom's Tale, personal trainer Lexa Thomas must confront the scars of her past in order to embrace her true identity, or turn her back on her Taiwanese heritage forever. The book has been described as a heartfelt, delightful read by Charles Yu, author of Interior Chinatown and winner of the National Book Award for Fiction. Lyn was born in Taiwan and moved to the States when she was 7. In her past and present lives, she has been a concert pianist, a professional ballet and modern dancer, a gym and fitness studio owner, a certified personal trainer and fitness instructor, a certified yoga instructor, a purse designer, and most recently, author of multicultural fiction. Her mother swears she was not a tiger mom to Lyn. Lyn came about her overachieving all by herself. Having lived in New York City for over a decade, Lyn fled for the peace and quiet of the suburbs when she married her FDNY husband. She now resides on a lake with her fireman, their son, the happiest little boy in the world, and their 2 stubborn dachshunds, Loki and Mochi, and a foster pup named Evie, who makes an unexpected guest appearance on this podcast today with some squeaky toys. When she is not torturing clients or talking to imaginary characters, Lyn enjoys cooking, sewing purses for her Etsy shop, spending time with her family, and trying crazy yoga poses on her stand-up paddleboard. So far, she has not fallen into the water yet.
So happy to meet you.
I know. It's so funny how I just stumbled upon your article about your book, and I was like, oh my gosh, there's another Taiwanese-American person here in Westchester. That was already like really amazing. And then I'm just so excited to see that you've written a book. Congratulations.
I have a foster dog in here, and she keeps squeaking the toys. I've taken them away from her, but we might have to stop in.
That's all right. We'll figure it out. I totally get it.
Great, thank you.
You staying cool in this heat?
Yeah, I just taught a yoga class, so I'm a little hot right now.
I love it. That's awesome. That's great. Well, first of all, thank you so much for joining us here today on Thrive Spice. We're just so excited. This is our first published author we're interviewing, so I'm very excited about that. And as I was telling you before, I was so excited to stumble upon your book. It is so rare to come across Taiwanese-American writers. So this was such a happy moment for me, and I absolutely loved your book. I finished it in 4 days, like Harry Potter binge reading style. I was like staying up late to read it and wondering what was going to happen next. I really feel like it has this like cinematic quality to it, and I can totally see it becoming one of those blockbuster movies like Crazy Rich Asians. Love the plot line. You were a master with that. So congrats again. And I appreciated how there was just so much love and inclusion of the nuances of not just Taiwanese and Chinese culture with the night market food and sesame balls and Taiwanese beef noodle soup, all my favorites, but also the family politics and tiger mom expectations of the holy girl becoming a doctor. But I could also relate to that kind of go-getter New York City culture when it comes to career and fitness and having it all. So I found it really relatable. I had also lived in the city for 13 years, mostly on the east side in Midtown and downtown. So it was fun to see like you'd sprinkled in a lot of those like familiar places and neighborhoody spots. And I love that the book really unapologetically sprinkled in Chinese words and food and traditions, but centered them on a lot of like untraditional perspectives. You have Lexa, a biracial character, is partially adopted, grew up in a blended family, and whose mother is coming out as gay in her 60s, and wrestles with their Taiwanese and American heritage and families. And I really love that you had characters like Shu Ling, who had her leg, and a bit differently abled characters. I thought that was very progressive. So bravo and congrats.
Thank you so much. I mean, I'm so happy to hear that you actually enjoyed it, because I think my harshest critics were either Taiwanese American women or Asian Americans, because they didn't see the representation of of their lives in the book. And you brought up a really good point. There is not a lot of Taiwanese American representation in books. And my editor, who's been in publishing for like 25, 30 years, said my book was the first one that she's ever gotten on submission that was told from a Taiwanese American perspective, which just blew my mind. Like, that's how much we need to catch up, right? So,
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, I was thinking about it last night too, like the number of Taiwanese American people who are really in the public eye in America is just so few. Like you can count
right.
them on one hand, and that absolutely needs to change. And I'm so happy that you have kind of broken through and like opened the gate for the rest of us. I'm sure that was a tough process. Like I'm wondering, I know this is your first published book, so I'm
Right.
wondering what inspired you to write the book and what was that writing and publishing journey like for you?
Well, first of all, publishing is so hard. Like
Yeah,
it's
I
like
can
it takes,
imagine.
I
Yeah.
mean, unless you're one of those lucky people who gets an agent right away, it usually takes a few years and sometimes
Mhm.
more than one book to
Yeah.
even find an agent. And
Hmm.
then once you get an agent, you think you have it made, but no, they have to submit it to all the publishing houses. And that's even the odds of getting picked up are goes even less because not only does the editor have to love it, but the entire publishing team, like sales team, all the other editors, like, everybody has to weigh in on it and they all have to love it in order for it to be picked up.
Oh my
So when
gosh.
you think about those chances, it's like so hard.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, as an Asian American, that I was breaking into when I first started in 2015. It was not, I mean, it was hard. There, I just started saying we need more diversity in publishing. But then I also would get pushback from people who are like Americans or whatever. And they said, well, I can't get an agent because everybody wants diverse people. So you'll get an agent real quick. It doesn't matter how good of a writer you are. So you're getting that kind of pushback on both sides. I'm like,
Like,
well, no,
thanks.
yeah,
Yeah.
like, that's not really how that works. But
Yeah.
so I don't know. I wasn't a writer. I was always an avid reader. I would read like 5, 7 books a day. This is before I had children, a child,
I can relate to that for sure. Yeah.
and
This is the
foster
first
college.
book I read in a long time, I have to
Right.
admit.
So I never thought I could write, but in 2015, I was like, my absolute idol is Leah Moriarty. And her books really spoke to me at a time in my life when I was going through a lot of hard stuff. And even though her books are based in Australia, her subjects are so timely that you can relate to it no matter where you are. And I was like, I would love to do that for people, but specifically Asian Americans who might feel at a place here in America, who feels not quite Asian enough, not quite American enough, and it's kind of caught between two worlds.
Yeah.
So that's why I sat down and started writing this book. But it took 3.5 years, 3 books to find an agent. And this book was actually a rewrite of that first book I wrote in 2015. So
Wow.
yeah,
Well,
so it took a long time.
well, thank you for pushing through. And the mission that you have is so important. Representation, I feel, is just, I can't stress it enough how much it matters. And now that I have 2 young daughters, I really look out for that. And I'm always thinking, like, how are we making it better for them to recognize their own narratives out there? And I'm curious, you kind of touched on this a little bit, but what brought you joy and fulfillment during this process? And how did you navigate setbacks or negative feedback or even just having to wait for feedback?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a very hard journey. And the only way to get through it, seriously, is to find other authors who are about
Mm,
at the same path as you, because writing is so solitary. And I didn't tell anybody in my real life that I was writing. I lied to people for 3.5 years, except for my husband. I did tell my husband because I would sneak off to like critique groups or go write. And I didn't want him to think that I was having an affair. So like, I didn't tell anybody else writing because I was almost like I was ashamed of it because I wasn't making any money. I wasn't getting anything in return. It was like 3.5 years of writing to the void. So
wow.
finding author friends who were on the same path was such a lifesaver because then we can say,
Hmm.
I had my query friends when I was querying. And then when I was in submission, I had submission support group. And then when we got a deal, I had the 2021 debut group, plus I'm with Berkeley Publishing, had that debut group. And they're the ones that really kept me going because they can cheer you on. They understand all the pitfalls. They're going through the exact same thing you're going through.
Hmm.
So that's what kept me going was that. And then it's been hard. Like you want to give up. And
Yeah.
I just kept pushing through because, like I said, I really wanted to get our voice out there. And it's funny. I think I mentioned this earlier that the feedback that I was getting from some Asian Americans was that they hated it. They hated this book. They said it was the worst book they ever read.
Oh my
And they said
God.
that it was stereotypical and the Mandarin was stilted and that it wasn't representative of their experience as Taiwanese American, whatever. And I get it because there is not a lot of Taiwanese books out there. So this is just from my perspective. And
Yeah.
I moved here when I was 7. So yes, my Mandarin is like that as a 7-year-old. And so is Lexa. Like Lexa didn't really know Mandarin that well.
Yeah.
She studied in Chinese school, but she didn't grow up with it. And that the stereotype of the tiger mom, that I fell back on the stereotype, but there's a reason why there's a tiger mom stereotype, because there really are women out there who behaves exactly like Pinyin did in the book. So I get it. And I hope that what happens is that more and more representation will show up in books and movies and entertainment from the Taiwanese perspective, or just mixed race. And hopefully then they can see themselves, and that people like me who are just pushing through are not responsible for representing all Taiwanese Americans, because I can't.
Yeah. I think that's such a liberated perspective, and I totally agree with you there. It's not our duty to be a monolith and represent every single, I mean, it's impossible. So I think that's a really healthy perspective to have. And kudos to you for adapting to that, because I can imagine hearing such harsh feedback from your own community. Kind of feels like a betrayal. You're like, hey, I wrote this for you.
I was really taken aback at first, and it really kind of shocked me. But then I thought, I was like, and my editor, my friends tell me not to read reviews, but I do. I know it doesn't. It just doesn't really bother me. I like to hear what people are saying, because it's really interesting to me how one book, somebody can either love it so much or they just hate it so much. And it doesn't really bother me. It just kind of opens my eyes to realize that, oh, you know what, there needs to be more of this or that.
Right, right. I remember when Crazy Rich Asians came out on film, there was a lot of similar sentiment within the community, even where some folks felt it didn't represent them. And I think the response from Kevin Kwan was like, that's fine, but I encourage you to go out there and tell your story then. Let it inspire you to come out and use your voice, which I think was a fabulous response.
We don't expect all white people to behave a certain way. So the same thing. It's just now and more than ever, I think Asian Americans need to push through that barrier in the entertainment, the books, everything. Absolutely. I don't know if you know this, but my book was pushed back because of the pandemic. It was originally supposed to come out earlier this year, and then it got pushed back because of the pandemic. And then when all that anti-Asian sentiment was happening last year, I got an email saying we're going to push our book back even further into the summer because of the anti-Asian sentiments.
What?
And at first, I said this all the time. My agent and I pushed back, because we're like, well, this is a time where we should put us out there in faces and say, we're here, we're Americans, we're not going anywhere. And they understood it. They said, yes, that's totally right. But I'm a debut author. Nobody knows who the heck I am. And for me to debut in a climate where it's hostile, they felt it was detrimental to the reach that I could get. So they wanted to wait until it was at least a little more not so volatile. And you know what? I think they were right. They know how to market books way more than I do. I have no idea how to do this, but I think they're right, because now I feel like having this book come out just 2 weeks ago, the world is a little bit different than it was at the end of last year and the beginning of this year. Things are calming down a little bit. And I hope now our voices can be heard more than when it was in that turmoil. So in a way, I'm glad it got pushed back.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And I can imagine that was super challenging, especially you'd already waited so long, and really it's a labor of love. And the time around the statistics coming out around the anti-Asian violence that was happening also impacted me in a very big way. In part, it actually inspired me to start this podcast. Because I saw that our community was really hurting, and we were struggling to talk about it in a way that felt healing and felt safe. And also, when you are kind of in that audience where it's more than just Asians and you're talking to white folks and people who might not understand our experience, you do feel kind of that burden of representing an entire community. So I can definitely relate to that, where just giving us the space to talk about it. And I think giving us also the time to organize and unite as a community hopefully helps your book launch as well, just to recognize the importance of representation and rallying around and amplifying the voices of new authors in our community.
Right. That's why when you reached out to me, I was like, oh, I definitely want to talk to you, because it's so important. And it's like, it's rare to find someone who has a podcast that, talks about these issues. And I told my publicist that I would love do more of these and just
Yeah,
start
absolutely.
using my voice in whatever way I can to spread the word
Yes.
and get it out there. So
Yes, absolutely. Your voice absolutely matters. So thank you for using it and also in your book. I wanted to like switch gears a little bit. I
okay.
noticed and appreciated how food played such a pivotal role in the novel. I think food is like the original love language of Asian culture. So as Asians, we know that food and family are just such an integral part of our emotional lives and our culture. And in scenes, especially where the family's eating these like lavish courses around a lazy Susan, like I've done that with my relatives in like Taiwan and Hong Kong and Singapore, so I could picture it so vividly. Or I love how you use like sesame balls as this common thread throughout the story. You did this wonderful job of using food as a marker of time, space, and emotion. I'm curious what your favorite dish that you described in the novel is, and what role has it played in your life emotionally?
Well, I didn't actually realize I was writing about food. Like it wasn't until after I started getting advanced reviews and everybody was mentioning food. I was like, did I write a book about food? And then I went back. I was like, oh, I guess I did. And you know what it made me realize is that the Taiwanese culture, we love food. Right?
Yes, we
It's like
do.
I mean, you go to Taiwan. I mean, the only thing I want to do when I go back there is eat.
Oh
And
yeah.
I
Yeah.
took my American husband and our son there a few years ago to do research for this book and combine it into a family trip. And
Hmm.
after a few days of just eating all day long, he goes, "Is this all we're gonna do? Just eat?" I'm like, "Yeah, pretty much. We're not spicy. We're just gonna."
Exactly.
And that
Exactly.
made me realize how much food plays such a big role in the Taiwanese culture, and I didn't realize. But I love Taiwanese street food, like the
Hmm.
night markets, the day markets, like just walking up and down there, like everything. It's just
Yes.
I
Yes.
crave it because we don't get it here. All that fun stuff, even the stinky tofu. Like
Yeah.
there used to be a place in Flushing, but now it's not there anymore. But my favorite thing is the noodle soups and
Hmm.
shave ice and
Oh
bubble
yeah.
tea. I
Oh,
could just
yum.
survive on those three things.
Oh my gosh, I'm like, I need to eat that for lunch now. Like, that
See,
sounds
it's a
so
good lunch.
good. Yeah, I can definitely relate to your experience bringing your husband to Taiwan because my husband's Indian and I took him shortly after we got engaged, like many moons ago now, to Taiwan and Hong Kong and Singapore where I have family. And I was like, okay, there's just one rule. I was like, you eat whatever they put
Right.
in front of you. I'm
And you
like, do
just
not
eat it.
hesitate. Do not ask questions. Do
Right.
not pass go. As long as you put it in your mouth, you are good.
Right.
Like they don't care what you look like, where you came from. Like just eat it and
Exactly.
be happy. That's it. That's all you need to
That's what I told my
understand.
husband. He tried everything, even like stuff that he was like, "What is he?" I was like, "Just eat it.
Yeah.
It's good."
Do not ask what it is. Just put it in your mouth. Yeah.
And he
Especially.
actually loved it. He actually had a
Yeah.
great. He loved all the food. So
That's awesome. That's great. Yeah, I think that's the ultimate test of a partner. It's like, all right, I'm going to bring you here and you're just going to eat everything and you will enjoy it. So, yeah. Oh, that's great. Your writer's bio mentions that you did not have a tiger mom, but you came about overachieving all on your own. So I'm curious, where did that come from and what are your feelings towards tiger parenting in general?
So I know many tiger moms and tiger dads. My mom was like the opposite of my parents were the opposite. So everybody in our family, like the Taiwanese, they want you to be a doctor or a
Oh yeah.
lawyer, some
Mm-hmm.
sort of something academic, makes a lot of money, it has prestige.
Of
And of
course.
course, my sister and I go into the arts. Like I was a dancer, a ballet dancer. My sister wanted to be in Hollywood, like writing and editing. And we both like deviated from this. And she did not push us. Like she's like, whatever you want to do, I'll support you for 2, 3 years after school. And then if you can't make it, then get a real job.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I've always just been an overachiever, like a type A, like to just do it, get it done. And I do like a million things at the same time. So I never had that tiger mom push, but I know so many tiger moms that I was like, you see, and you think like, what would happen if a woman or man is so obsessed with getting their child ahead that they have blinders on to anything else? Like if they're hurting somebody else, and what if whatever this person does impacts somebody else's life? And that's where that story came from, the Tiger Mom's Tale. It wasn't originally in the first book that I wrote. I mean, the first draft I wrote, it was a different trauma that happened that kept her from going back to Taiwan. But then as I developed the story, I said, you know what, this is something that's very prevalent in people's lives that I know of. So I wanted to bring that stereotype in. And it is a stereotype for a reason, because they really do this. They are really
Yeah.
mean to their kids, and there's no friends. It's all about academics. If you get a 99, what happened to that other 1 point?
Yeah.
So just
Yeah.
bring kind of a look into that life.
Right, right. And I think that was a great point in terms of that whole tiger mom or tiger dad culture. It impacts not just their children, but everyone around them. And I think you did a great job of illustrating how there's this ripple effect of how it really twists and affects the entire family in its intergenerational trauma. And then I guess Lexa is kind of tasked with intergenerational healing on the
Right.
flip side when she receives the news. So I appreciated that as well. I also noticed that the book shows what it's like for a modern day Asian American woman to experience racism, whether it's casual microaggressions to dating guys with yellow fever, which, if you're an Asian woman, every one of us has been there and had the unwelcome comments. Given everything that's happened lately with anti Asian violence and racism, was it therapeutic for you to write about it and how Lexa reacts to it?
Oh, yes, definitely. So, like you, I lived in New York City for 14 years. And I think all the dating situations I put in the book really happened to me.
Wow.
So that scene where she's meeting the guy with the yellow fever who asked her,
Yeah.
for down the FDR,
Ugh.
that actually happened to me. And
Oh my God.
specifically FDR Drive. And
Ugh.
um, I did not throw my drink in his face or his drink in his lap, but I wanted to. And
Mhm.
like, as a good Taiwanese American who was brought up to be polite, I did not do that at the time.
Mhm. Mhm.
But so I had Lexa do it for me. And that was such, I was just like, oh, this is so like therapeutic to be able
Yeah.
to like have her stand up for herself and be like, hey, you're a pig. Just because I look Asian doesn't mean I'm going to do that. And that's actually one of my favorite lines is when her friend Rob is like, why the FDR? Why not the West Side Highway? Because that was like the thought in my head, like, why in such a specific detail? Like, why the
Yeah.
FDR? Is there some sort of fetish in there?
Yeah.
But
Arguably less scenic in my opinion,
right.
but to each his
So
own.
that was my favorite line. And then the other scenes that happened later on with the three sisters. I mean, all this stuff happened to me. I mean, I did not kung fu the guy, and whatever, but I wanted to because I've been called exotic a lot,
Mhm.
and that I'm submissive and that I am a lotus blossom waiting to flower, whatever it
Yeah.
is. Like, do I look like a lotus blossom to you?
Right, right. Super
So,
annoying.
but it happens, and it really does happen. And it keeps happening, like still.
Hmm.
Now that even as a middle-aged woman, I'm like,
I know.
people have
It's
these
like,
like,
when does it end? Yeah, it's one of those like double-edged swords. Like, you know, we tend to age well as Asian
right,
women,
right,
but we're just like, okay, like I've got a kid, I've got a stroller,
right,
like,
right.
when is this gonna end? I'm picking up my dog's poop. Like, come on,
Yeah, yeah.
like,
Oh, yeah. That
give me a
happens all
break.
the time too in New York City.
Yeah,
But
you're
yeah,
like,
I just wanted to give people who weren't Asian or people who were Asian have gone through it, just kind of a glimpse of what we deal with on a
yeah.
daily basis,
Hmm.
and how, and the way she reacted was the way I wished I had reacted. Now that
Yes.
in my 20s, I was not like that, as confident as Lexa was, and able to like just be like, no, you don't talk to me like that. So
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
was my way of kind of going back and redoing
Mhm.
it.
Oh, I love that. I love that it was so healing for you. And I
Yeah.
have many similar experiences where I'm not good at quick comebacks. Like
Right.
I
You
would
think
think of
so
it
late.
like five
Yeah,
blocks later. I'm like, this is what
exactly.
I should have said. Like that was so rude. And the few times I did say something, like they would then physically threaten me. So I
Oh
was
yeah, right.
okay, maybe we're not going to do that. So, and I think it is important to illustrate to those who don't identify as an Asian American female that this does happen quite often. And it does feel scary and demeaning. And it does leave scars. So I think it is
Definitely.
important to show that we're not making this up. It
Right.
does happen. And even like the microaggressions, there are a few in the book, like what Lexa's clients say to her sometimes about being Asian and she can eat whatever
Right.
she wants or whatever it is. Like I've heard those too. And
Right.
they just get tiring. You're like, I'm tired of this. Like,
Right.
so it was nice to see that represented because it's one of those nuances of what it's like to be an Asian American woman in a big city. And I think it helps others understand why a lot of these acts of bias and hatred were happening and still
Right.
do.
We didn't bring it on ourselves. I mean, it's
Oh
just by
no.
existing, like looking
Yeah,
the way we look, it happens. It's like,
exactly. Exactly. Like we can't change the way our faces look. I mean,
Right.
I went through a phase after the Atlanta spa shootings where I was afraid to even go outside with a mask because I
Right.
thought they
Yeah,
can still tell I'm Asian underneath my mask. And I was
exactly.
like afraid for my family. And I was like, no one should have to live like this.
Right. I live in the well, I think you're in the suburbs too, but I had to go
Hmm.
to the city and my mom's like, don't take the subway. They're going to push you into the subway tracks,
Yeah.
like stand in the middle. And like she was freaking out. And I was like, yeah, I understand your worry. I will stand in the middle. I'll hug a pole or something.
I know. I know. It's like the little things that we've done throughout the years, like you put the keys in your fist and
Right.
you scan your surroundings and
Always aware of my surroundings in New
yeah,
York City.
yeah. And I think that to add to that, I think there was just such a rich exploration of the roles and expectations for women in your novel. What really struck me was that eldest daughter syndrome that I feel because I am the eldest daughter.
Me
So
too.
I'll speak from my experience. So you're
Yep.
caring for everyone, your parents, your siblings, extended family, your dog, and then also to sisterhood and the complexities of that relationship as well. I really identified with that as the eldest daughter, and I also have two little girls who, although they're only 1 and 3 years old, already encompass the full spectrum of emotions that were between the sisters in your novel. There's jealousy, love, hatred, kindness,
Right.
playfulness. It's all there. It's all there from the beginning. So I appreciated seeing that kind of play out in the book. In your personal life, how have traditional gender role expectations of you as a daughter, sister, wife, mother, etc., affected your mental health?
So I was pretty lucky that in our family, it wasn't just like sons are revered and daughters are just pushed aside. We
Mhm.
were treated pretty equally, which is great. Like our
Yeah.
grandparents were really about education for everybody and nurturing whatever talent we had. Because I used to be a piano player and then I wanted to dance. And so it was okay. Like it wasn't like our male cousins were more revered than we were. I
Mhm.
think we were treated all pretty equally, but they all wanted us to be doctors and
Yeah.
bankers or like lawyers, financial people. So the only thing that I really felt was that my sister and I just deviated from the family because my mom is one of six and my dad's one of nine,
Wow.
and most of them went into like the expected
Uh-huh.
kind of professions and stuff, and we kind of deviated from that. So that was like
Hmm.
probably the only thing that really wasn't, I mean, not expected or accepted in our family, but just different. I didn't really feel that too much of that syndrome of being the person in charge. I mean, I am. I'm the oldest sister I have a younger sister, which is why I based Lexa that she was the older sister with two younger half sisters that she's
Hmm.
kind of looking out for, but at the same time, they are looking out for her. So it's like that
Hmm.
dynamic. I feel that a lot with my sister. Like, even though we don't talk a lot sometimes, or she lives in California, I'm over here, responsibility. And then the fact that when we're together with all the cousins, the oldest cousin is usually the one that we look up to,
Hmm.
even though the oldest male is who would inherit it. So it's not the oldest girl, it would be the oldest male. So my oldest cousin is a female, so she wouldn't have inherited according to the whatever lines of that Taiwan. And I kind of explained that a little bit in the Tiger Mom's Tale. So
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, I think that's super interesting because I've also noticed, especially as I got older, that sometimes it's my younger brothers who take care of me in a way. So it's really
right.
nice to see that relationship flipped around as we get older. And I see some of that in the novel as well, where, as you mentioned, her younger sisters are taking care of her in unexpected ways. And I think when we expect to shoulder that burden as an eldest daughter our whole lives, it also takes a toll on us, but then it's this pleasant surprise when we realize we can also seek support from others and we're not alone.
Right. Lean on others. Right.
Hmm. Hmm.
That's true. Yeah. I
Yeah.
agree with that.
And I also noticed in terms of support, I noticed that, and I love that Lexa returns to her Kung Fu practice and her mentorship with her Sifu as a place of calm and direction throughout the story, especially because my mom actually has been taking Shaolin for many years and she's got
Oh,
like
how
the
nice.
swords and the sticks and
Oh,
like she's this yeah, she's
wow.
like this very unassuming, petite, older Asian woman, very sweet. And
Uh-huh.
then I ask her like what she's working on. She's like, "Yeah, I'm working on learning how to kill someone." I'm like, "Okay." Like, "Great, mom." Yeah. Yeah. And then like she'll send me videos where
Wow.
she like
Sure.
looks like Kung Fu Panda. I'm just like, all right, that's awesome. So I love that because I also think that that whole mental aspect of any sort of martial arts practice is almost like undersold or misunderstood, particularly in
Yes.
American culture. And I actually teared up at that line in your book when Lexa Shifu tells her peace is the most powerful weapon on earth. And it's the highest level of Kung Fu, and you can find peace inside, and then nothing can touch you. I was like, oh, that's just such a beautiful lesson. You learn Kung Fu for all these years, and to feel like you can fend for yourself, but really it's this practice of mental fortitude.
Right.
I'm yeah, I'm curious, what is your Kung Fu when it comes to your own mental health journey? What's helped you maintain a sense of peace in times of stress or doubt or turmoil?
Well, I actually did study Kung Fu for one summer. I was
Cool.
dancing in the city and I had the summer off. So I went to the Shaolin Temple there. And the seafood that I met is based on this man that I met who was a Shaolin Temple monk. And I loved it so much, not just the physical aspect, because as a dancer and fitness instructor, that part spoke to me, but also all his philosophy. Like everything I wrote in the book was stuff that he said about the peace and how believe in yourself, you try harder. That was all just like, I wish I could have kept going, but then I went back to performing in the fall. So I could only do it during the summer. But it just stuck with me because life is so hard and there's so many different ways. Like I can't meditate. I'm too type A. I can't like find different ways of, I'm a yoga instructor, but I still can't shut off my mind. And it's taken a lot of different things for me to get to where I am, because I think I mentioned earlier that in 2013, I had all these terrible things happen and I was about to give up on life. I was like, this is it. I'm done. But the books is what got me through, the Moriarty's books, and just kind of finding myself again
Yeah.
and finding who am I? Like Steve who said, believe in yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Able to boost you up. It's been a very hard, and in my third book, it's not been sold yet, but I deal with a lot of mental health issues in Asian American families, how it's a stigma and that we don't talk about it. So I actually based my third book. The main character is depressed. All these bad things happen to her and she has a lot of mental health issues and she does not address them because she's been told all her life that mental health problems are just something in their head. She doesn't seek help. She won't go see someone, and her friends and her husband are like, you need to go. So I do address that in that third book because I feel like it's so important. Asian Americans tend to think of mental illness or mental problems as a stigma, and they don't talk about it. They don't address it. Families hide it. And so if you have a problem, we're told like, shh, don't tell anybody, it's a secret, or nobody tells you anything. Well,
Yeah.
years later, like so-and-so tried to commit suicide, or so-and-so was depressed or was into a hospital. So I just think like we need to be more open about it, and which would help everybody, I think, itself bearing it to just be able to deal with your own mental health and keeping everything in balance. And I really believe that mental health is a balance between mental, physical, and then your own emotional, like self-worth, like how you feel about yourself.
I definitely agree with that in terms of mental health being more than just about mental health. There's a trifecta of factors beneath that. And I couldn't agree more about that sense of shame that happens and secrecy that I'm really hoping that we can help to alleviate so that it's a thing of the past. And I think that sometimes these secrets are like hidden for generations and find out till someone's passed away or just decades later. And I think that happens in your book as well. Really glad that you're focusing on that in your third book. I think that's such an important message, particularly for our community, because there is such a history of privacy and secrecy and shame that really should not be there when it comes to mental health. I use the analogy of if you have a broken arm or you have a rash on your skin, what do? You go seek help. There's no shame. Just go see someone who can help you with that. It really should be the same for mental health, right? And if you're starting to be aware of it affecting your mood and your happiness and your feelings of stress and anxiety or depression, it's very common. And it's absolutely something that you can seek help with. It doesn't necessarily require medication, although some people do better on medication. And it's just something that a lot of us go through. Many of us go through. I myself have struggled with it throughout my life and have been in therapy for many years. And I think just normalizing that for our community and showing that it's not only okay, it shows that you've invested in your own mental health and your family's health, right? Because when you can show up as your whole self, as your best self, you're able to care for others better. Particularly as a mother, that was a lesson I had to learn the hard way because I had this like sacrificial image in my head of what it was like to be a mom. And so I definitely had to learn the hard way. I was like, oh, wait, like it's okay if I take time to shower and get the sleep I need and eat and just even beyond basic needs, like really make time for self-care. And I'm curious because I read your blog and I saw that you had adopted a little boy, and I love reading that story. So I'm curious for you as a mother, how has that changed you?
Oh yeah, it's definitely our life was turned upside down when we got him. Like,
Sounds about right.
Yeah, we were expecting. He was almost 4 years old when we adopted him, and we were expecting a walking, talking toddler, but he wasn't walking, talking, or diaper trained, and it was a shock. So first of all, even just becoming a parent is so stressful, and then to not get the child that we were expecting was even a bigger shock. We didn't know how to change a diaper because we just thought he knew it was already out of it. So we had to get somebody to show us how to change a diaper. He is literally, I call him the happiest little boy on the earth. And he is just like, he is like Buddha. Like so many people say this, like there's this thing about him that just makes you real. Like he is how we should live life. Like he approaches life every day with so much joy and happiness and gratitude that he is alive and that he is no longer in an orphanage and not getting enough to eat and not getting any stimulation. He is just, because they told us with children that are older, when you adopt them from these circumstances, that they could have issues. They might not bond with you. They could have tantrums, hit, bite, steal, all this stuff. And he didn't do any of that. He bonded to us right away. And I think it's because I speak Mandarin and I was able to communicate with him. So he understood whether if it's an American family that adopted who doesn't speak the language, first of all, they look different. And second of all, they can't communicate with him. So it just really, he just opens my eyes that this is how we should live life. Like, and I'm if you ask my husband, I can get very grumpy and crotchety when I don't have enough sleep or I don't get enough sleep.
Too. Yeah.
I'm impatient and whatever, and I yell and whatever. He's like, I just look at him and I just like, I wish I could be more like him. And so I'm like learning from him, even though he's just turned 9. He's a little boy, but he is just such a light, and everybody we meet can see it. So,
Oh, I love that. And I couldn't agree more. I mean, we think we're here to teach our children, and then they end up teaching us. And they're just so good at being adaptable and living in the moment and finding joy. And it's such a good reminder, particularly because it is hard for us moms. And trust me, I've definitely been there. I mean, lack of sleep turns me into like a zombie demon. Like I am not fun to be around. Like I definitely will yell. And you should have seen me during the pandemic when both my daughters were home and there was no help. And like even getting groceries, there was like a 7-day wait to get groceries. I mean, I was like, just anything set me off. So I get it.
I had to homeschool him. And that was like the worst thing that could have ever happened to us. Like, he said to me after like a month and a half, he goes, "Mommy, I retire from your school. I hate it." I'm like, "You didn't retire. You're 8 years old." But that's how bad it was. And
oh my gosh.
Yeah. He said to me, "I love you as a mommy, but I really did not like you as a teacher."
I think like that's most kids. I mean, I'm sure you probably could say, "I love you as my child, but I don't like being your teacher either."
I don't want to be your teacher and be stuck with you 24/7. And
it is really hard. Yeah. I mean, I spent some time home with my daughters their first year, and it was just the most difficult job I've ever had.
Oh yeah.
So I have so much respect for their teachers at their schools because because I mean, I just don't have the patience.
I don't either.
Yeah. And the reality is, even at school, like there's a staff and there's someone who's helping to cook the meals and someone
Right.
who's helping to clean and someone who's
Exactly.
taking turns. And if someone needs to take a bathroom break, that's okay. Like someone else will take over. And
Yeah.
that's not the case at home. So it
Nope.
is really tough when all of that's expected of us. But I'm just so happy to hear that you had such a positive experience with adopting. You always know you wanted to adopt?
No, I never wanted to adopt. I've always said I didn't want children. I don't know. I just could never imagine myself having a child and being
Hmm.
responsible for a child.
Yeah.
But my husband wanted children. And then we had, in 2013, I mentioned we had a lot of bad things happen to me. I had 3 miscarriages in 1 year.
Oh,
So I was
wow.
pregnant 3 times in 1 year.
Oh
And
my
then I ended up
God.
getting a complication from 2 of them. You see, I had like a blood clot the size of a grapefruit in my, I mean, it was, and I had to have surgery and this.
Oh,
So the doctor was like, the good news is you can get pregnant. You can keep trying. But my husband was like, after that year, he's like, no, we're not doing it
mm,
anymore because it
yeah,
was like so physically, tolling and mentally on both of us.
yeah.
So we discussed adopting and we did look into it for a while and then we gave up on it. We said, we're not going to do this. And then I rescued 5 stray cats, or maybe it was 4 stray cats, and brought them in to get spayed. And the woman that was in charge of the rescue had adopted 3 kids from China and told us about the agency she used. And we
Hmm.
met, she introduced us, and it just one thing fell in place. And then we saw the picture of our son, and we all said, this is our child.
Oh,
Because they had given us other dossiers to look at of healthy children. Our son was labeled the medical diagnosis, which
mm,
is scary because we don't know what it meant.
yeah.
But my mom, my dad, my husband, and I, we all looked at this file separately and we all said, this is our son.
Oh my
And
God.
so I really believe, and that's why my second book, Red Thread of Fate, is actually based on his adoption journey. It's not
Oh,
about him. It's just about a woman and her husband who want to adopt, and how the fate just kind of brings you together with people that
hmm.
you're meant to be with, whether it's a loved, like a husband or partner or something, or a child.
That's
So
so beautiful. I
yeah,
think, and thank you for sharing your journey on that because I also think it's one of those things that maybe in the past was like more stigmatized. I mean, even miscarriages were
don't
definitely,
talk about that.
shrouded in secrecy. And I'm really happy that, although it's so sad to hear about, I'm really happy that women are finally coming out to talk about
Yes,
it. It is so important because so many of us have gone through it than we think.
right.
And it's such a private wound. And I can't imagine how hard it must have been for you to
Well,
go.
it actually helps me to talk about it. Like for the
Mhm.
first year, it was awful. I mean, I thought I was by myself, alone. I didn't realize so many people had gone through it. And then when I started talking about it and realized more people had gone through it, maybe not to the extent of what happened to me with the blood clots and the complications, but I
Yeah.
do put it into the second book. The main character, yes, does go through some of the same thing I do because I wanted, like we said about the Asian community hiding things, whatever. I want to be able to talk about it and
Hmm.
put it out there. I'm not ashamed of it. This happened to me. It
Yeah.
shaped me. And I do believe things happened the way they were supposed to.
Hmm.
And that's how our son came into our lives. And I can't
Mm.
imagine him not in our lives right now. So
Yeah.
so I'm hoping like with my books that I can bring more of these taboo topics out in the open
Yeah.
for people who might have experienced the same thing and are afraid to talk about it or feel like they're alone. So
Yeah, I love that. I think it's such a modern twist and a beautifully collective one in terms of helping our community and those outside of our community as well. It just like we've all gone through these experiences that shaped us. And as you said, you wouldn't have it any different way. I also had 2 high risk pregnancies. So I can
right.
fully, while I'm lucky enough to have not had loss, I can understand like the pressure and just the mental and physical toll it takes on you. So I totally agree that it's super important to keep telling these stories
Right.
because there's nothing to be ashamed of. It's a part of life.
It happened.
Yeah, exactly. And you've learned something from it and you got a beautiful gift from it in the end. So I'm really happy to hear that. I'm curious, I noticed and also appreciated that in your book, it's very like non-linear in terms of the narration. And I appreciate how like the chapter is rotated amongst the time and characters, different characters' perspective, almost like zooming in and zooming out on the story from different perspectives. And I almost felt like it breeded this radical compassion for each of the characters and really helped you understand why they did what they did, particularly Pinyin and her journey. Even the tiger mom has a tale, as you know, your title of your book alludes, right? She also has a reason why she's doing this. In the book and in your personal life, do you feel that our own journeys of healing, acceptance, and peace can feel very nonlinear at times?
Yes, I think a lot of people get lost in their own perspective and what's happening to them, to their lives. And that's why I wanted to tell the story from different points of view, because I didn't want it to just be from Lexa's point of view so that we only get in her head. I want the reader to see how other people viewed her, and also what they thought of her that might be different from what she thought, and why they do the things that they do. Because we all have reasons why we do things we do without that nobody knows about. And when I originally wrote Pinyin, I think I made her too evil because my editor was like, could you add a scene and just to humanize her so that we can understand why she does the things she does? And I have gotten some feedback where people said that there were too many characters and that there was too many arcs and whatever. But I'm like, but in life, that's what happens. We are surrounded by a lot of people who influence us. And it's not just our own lives that affect us, it's everybody else around us. So I was trying to make it more realistic, which I understand they thought there was too many characters to get invested in or whatever. But for me, I felt all those characters kind of helped shape Lexa, just like people in our lives help shape us and how we react to them, you know, each person and how they perceive us. It kind of helps you draw a conclusion about who you are. And she needed to reconcile her Asian side that she has put away for so long before she could really understand who she was and what she wants out of life.
Right. Totally. Yeah, I love that you did add that human component to PM because, to your point, we all know a tiger mom or tiger dad, right? So we wonder, how did this happen? And I do think that's a wonderful nuance to add to that character to help us understand those individuals in our families, in our communities, and just try to figure out, okay, where does that pain come from? Because everyone's got this pain or trauma that they've experienced and it impacts how they treat everybody else. So I love how you humanize that, but also showed like the damaging effects as well, like almost like a cautionary tale, like, okay, this is what could happen if we let these like negative thoughts really control us and have that cycle really become so damaging to everybody else. But I again want to just congratulate you on such a beautifully written story with really a lot of modern and traditional nuances that I really appreciated as a Taiwanese-American. And I also want to just congratulate you on just pushing through and surviving and thriving throughout the publishing journey. I can imagine it was just super tough and required a lot of like grit and resilience. So I applaud you for that. It seems like you return to your book almost as like a form of meditation. It's the action of continual movement or continual progression is so important. Did you ever have writer's block, or what did you do if you found yourself kind of stuck?
I don't have writer's block because I don't write every day. I know a lot of people say you should write every day, even if it's a few words. I don't. I'll go months without writing a single word, but I'm always thinking about it in my head about what is going to happen. What is this character like? I have a very big imagination. And so I come up with these scenarios and I work it through in my head so that by the time I sit down to write, I know what I'm going to write. And then the words kind of flow out. So I write, I call it in bits and spurts, spurts and stops. I'll go months without writing anything. And then also I'll just bang out half a book and I find inspiration from everybody and everything I come in contact with. Like every theme it's either something like my husband's an FDNY fireman and something he would come home and tell me this happened. I was like, ooh, that would make an interesting story. Or I hear about somebody else, or like the seafood from Kung Fu. So I don't have writer's block, and it's because I don't force myself to write when I don't have anything to write about. I just allow my mind to go. I listen to what's going on. I think about, ooh, what happened if so-and-so did this in this situation? And then it comes. So I do outline now. So I'll come up with some sort of outline so that when I do write, it's easier.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, I love that. It's so freeing and I think, and very mindful actually. So that's great that you've had this creative process that serves you and
Yeah.
gives you joy. I love that.
Yeah, and I focus on like I'm also a fitness and yoga instructor.
Mm-hmm.
So I use that to burn off that
Yeah.
excess energy that you get from sitting still. So
Yeah.
that balance is really good. And
Mm-hmm.
then I am also a sewer. I have an Etsy store where I make like bags and purses I make. And
Mm-hmm.
for me, sewing is the meditation that I need
Yeah.
because it's like mindless. I can just do
Uh-huh.
it without thinking and I
Yeah.
let my mind go. And it's just like, I just love that repetitive, like,
Yeah.
so that balance of those three things, I'm so lucky that I found it because I searched for it all my life. Like, what do I want to do with my life?
Mm-hmm.
And right now, this balance is working for me. So
That's
hopefully it
great.
works for a while.
Yeah, I think that's great because I think there's such a pressure, particularly in Asian and American culture, to just pick one thing, and
Right,
usually that's be
right,
a doctor. So
right.
everything should be a doctor. And then it's almost like it's so alien, this concept that you could be doing multiple things that
Right.
bring you joy and abundance in different formats in your life. And I think that's such a refreshing departure from the traditional kind of old school vision of what it means to be successful and fulfilled versus choosing our own path, which is, I guess, admittedly a bit more like American if you want to like quantify it into a category. But I think I see how both in the book and in your personal life, it turned out to be better for both Lexa's mental health and fulfillment and for yours. So I'm really happy to hear that. And I'm just so thankful to you for sharing your journey with us. And congrats again. Such a wonderful book. Everyone needs to go out and read it. I'm going to call it now. It's going to be on screen in theaters or something in a few
Well,
years.
I do have a film agent, so they are
Ooh.
working on it. So fingers crossed.
Yes, yes. I can definitely see it. I can see it being brought to life. So, crossing our fingers, we will see it on screen. But for now, you can buy the books. I'll let you tell everyone where you can get your books.
You can get it anywhere books are sold. Amazon, Barnes and Noble. I mean, you go to any store, they have them, and just Google the Tiger Mom's Tale, and it'll pop up.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. That is so great. So, thank you so much. Lovely to have you, Lynn, and best of luck in your launch. And can't wait to talk to you again.
Thank you so much for having me today. That was great.
Yeah, of course. Of course.